If you're new here, subscribe, drop a comment, and hit that like button before we start. Trust me, you don't want to miss where this goes. The folder landed on my desk at 7:43 in the morning and I already knew something was wrong. Not because of what was inside it. Because of what wasn't. I've been doing forensic accounting for 6 years. I know what clean books look like. I know what too clean looks like. And I know what books that have been scrubbed so hard the paper almost bleeds look like. This was the third one. I flipped to the first page and said nothing. My new assistant, a nervous Korean woman named Minji who had introduced herself 4 times already, stood at the edge of my desk like she was waiting for permission to breathe. "Is everything okay, Ms. Mensah?" "It's Zara," I said, without looking up. "And yes. Give me an hour." She left. I didn't watch her go. My name is Zara Mensah. I'm 28 years old. I grew up in Chicago watching my mother clean other people's houses so I could go to college, and I have never, not once in my life, taken a job I didn't fully understand. Until this one. KJ Holdings had reached out to my firm 8 weeks ago with a number that made my managing director laugh and then immediately stop laughing. An independent audit of their Seoul headquarters, full access to 6 years of financial records, 3-month contract, and a fee that would pay off my mother's mortgage and still have money left over. I said yes before the call ended. My mother had been coughing for 2 months. I needed this to be simple. It was not simple. The Seoul office was everything the portfolio had promised: 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling glass, a view of the Han River that made you feel like you were standing inside a painting. The staff were polished, efficient, and deeply uncomfortable around me in a way they were trying very hard to hide. I had walked through the glass doors that first morning in my cream blazer and natural hair and watched 12 people pretend not to stare. I smiled at all of them. Wide. Unbothered. My mother always said, "Let them stare, Zara. Stars don't apologize for their light." I had been here 11 days now. I had gone through 4 department audits, interviewed 6 senior managers, reviewed approximately 3,000 pages of documentation, and eaten alone at my desk every single day because I didn't trust small talk with people whose books I was interrogating. And in 11 days, I had found 3 anomalies. Small ones. The kind that only a person looking for them would find. The kind that someone had worked very, very hard to make invisible. I pulled out my notebook, actual paper, actual pen, because I trusted paper more than servers, and I drew 3 columns. Date. Amount. Destination. The first anomaly was from 4 years ago. A transfer of $800,000 routed through a logistics company in Busan that had ceased operations the year before. Companies that don't exist can't receive money. But they can hold it, briefly, before it moves again. The second was from 2 years ago. 11 separate transactions, each just under the reporting threshold, each going to a different subsidiary. On paper they were vendor payments. But 3 of those vendors shared a registered address. A parking structure in Incheon. The third was from last month. That one made me put my pen down. Last month, $2.3 million had moved through the payroll system. Not as payroll, disguised as a software licensing fee, buried inside a quarterly report, flagged internally as routine infrastructure maintenance. But I know payroll architecture. I rebuilt one from scratch for a pharmaceutical company in Atlanta. And this wasn't infrastructure. This was a channel. A recurring, structured, deliberately boring channel that someone had been using so long it had stopped raising flags. I sat back in my chair. I looked at the Han River. I thought about my mother's cough. Then I opened my laptop, created an encrypted personal file, and started pulling threads. I see you reading. Make sure you've liked this video and subscribed. It's about to get very interesting. By noon I had found 9 more. Not 8. Not 10. 9, which felt intentional, like whoever designed this system had a preference for odd numbers. Each one was small enough to ignore alone. Together they formed a pattern so precise it was almost beautiful. 6 years of transactions, all moving in the same direction, all arriving at the same invisible destination through different doors. $400 million. Minimum. I stood up. Walked to the window. Pressed 2 fingers to my temple. Okay. Think, Zara. Option 1, I was wrong. I had been working 12-hour days on 3 hours of sleep and I had connected dots that weren't connected. It happened. Not to me, but it happened. I went back to my desk and checked everything again. I was not wrong. Option 2, this was a legitimate corporate structure that I didn't have full context for and there was a reasonable explanation waiting in a file I hadn't accessed yet. I pulled every file I hadn't accessed yet. There was no reasonable explanation. Option 3. I didn't let myself finish option 3. Not yet. Instead I did what I always did when I found something I wasn't supposed to find. I documented everything. Precisely, thoroughly, without emotion. Dates, amounts, account numbers, routing patterns, the name of every shell company in the chain. Then I saved it to a USB drive. Then I saved a second copy to a USB drive. Then I put the second USB drive in the inside pocket of my blazer, close to my ribs, where my heartbeat could keep it company. I was being paranoid. I knew I was being paranoid. But my mother always said there's a difference between paranoia and pattern recognition, and the women in our family have never gotten them confused. At 1:15 p.m., Minji knocked and told me there was a team lunch in the third-floor conference room and I was welcome to join. I'm fine, I said. Thank you. She hesitated. Mr. Kang prefers that all contracted staff. Minji. I looked at her directly. Which Mr. Kang? She blinked. I'm sorry. There are 4 Kang surnames in the senior directory. Which one prefers I attend lunch? Her mouth opened, then closed. The director. Mr. Kang Jiwoo. I had not met Kang Jiwoo yet. In 11 days, I had met everyone else, department heads, regional managers, the CFO who had shaken my hand for exactly 2 seconds longer than necessary while smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. But the director himself had been, according to his assistant, unavailable. Tell Mr. Kang, I said pleasantly, that I appreciate the invitation and I'll catch the next one. Minji looked like she wanted to tell me that there was no correct way to deliver that message. Then she nodded and left. I ate a protein bar at my desk. Drank my third coffee. Stared at my columns. At 3:47 p.m., the elevator at the end of the hall opened. I didn't look up immediately. I heard footsteps unhurried, even, the kind that didn't adjust for other people in the space, and then they stopped. I looked up. He was standing in the doorway of my office. Kang Jiwoo was 34 years old according to the company directory. The photograph in the directory was formal, flat, the kind of image designed to communicate authority and nothing else. It had not communicated this. He was tall, not aggressively, but in the way that made a room reorganize itself slightly. Dark suit, no tie, collar open one button in a way that looked accidental and absolutely was not. His face was the kind of controlled that took years to build, not cold exactly, but managed. Like every expression had been reviewed before it was allowed to happen. He was looking at me the way people looked at a problem they hadn't anticipated. I held the look. I was very good at holding looks. Ms. Mensah, he said. His English was precise. Unhurried. You missed lunch. I had a protein bar, I said. It was fine. Something moved across his face, not quite amusement, not quite annoyance, something that couldn't decide what it wanted to be. He stepped into the office. Not all the way, just enough to make the room smaller. He looked at the folders on my desk, at my notebook, at the 3 columns I had not closed. I closed my notebook. His eyes moved to my hand on the notebook. Then back to my face. How is the audit progressing? He asked. On schedule, I said. And your findings so far? I smiled. It was the smile I used with powerful men who asked questions they already knew the answers to. I'll have a preliminary report ready by the end of the contract period. As agreed. Silence. The kind of silence that had weight to it. He looked at me for a moment that was 3 seconds too long to be casual. Then he said, My team tells me you've been requesting files outside your designated audit scope. Your contract gave me access to 6 years of financial records across all departments, I said. I've been accessing 6 years of financial records across all departments. Some of those departments have sensitive infrastructure. I finished. Yes. Your CFO mentioned that. I noted it and continued anyway. The contract is clear, Mr. Kang. Another silence. This one felt different. Thinner. He nodded once, slow, deliberate. Of course. He turned to leave. Then he stopped without turning back. Join the team lunch tomorrow, Ms. Mensah. It wasn't a question. I'll check my schedule, I said. He left. I sat very still until his footsteps disappeared. Then I exhaled. Then I looked down at the USB drive sitting on my desk, picked it up, and moved it back inside my blazer pocket. Pattern recognition, not paranoia. My mother taught me the difference. I worked until 9 p.m. The cleaning crew came through at 8 and worked quietly around me like I was furniture. Minji had long since gone home. The 43rd floor had emptied out in stages, the junior staff first, then the managers, then the senior directors who liked to be seen leaving late. I stayed because I had found something new. Not a new anomaly. Something worse, the absence of one. In every set of fraudulent books, there is always a period of sloppiness. A quarter where someone got lazy, or rushed, or scared. A moment where the pattern breaks because humans are not machines and even the best ones flinch. 6 years. $400 million. 37 separate shell entities across 9 countries. Not one flinch. This had not been built by an accountant. This had been built by someone who understood how accountants think. Someone who knew exactly which threads would be pulled and had pre-cut every single one. I was looking at the work of someone who was either a genius or who had bought one. I saved my updated file. Added it to both USBs. Put one USB back in my blazer, locked the other in the small case I carried everywhere that had a biometric lock and had survived 3 muggings, 1 international flight delay, and my cousin Kofi trying to borrow it without asking. I shut my laptop. Stretched my neck. Started packing my bag. That's when I noticed the light. Down the hall, past the row of darkened office windows, one door was open. Light spilling through the gap in a thin, gold stripe across the floor. I should have left. I know I should have left. I have told myself this story many times since, and every time I arrive at this moment I think, Zara, pick up your bag, walk to the elevator, go home. I walked toward the light instead. The door was not fully open. I pushed it slightly, just enough to see. It was a glass-walled conference room. Inside, 3 men stood around a table covered in documents and photographs. Not financial documents. Photographs. Of people. The men were speaking in fast, low Korean. I didn't understand the words. But I understood the energy in the room, urgent, tight, the specific tension of a conversation that could not afford interruptions. One of the men turned slightly and I saw his profile. Kang Jiwoo. He wasn't wearing his jacket anymore. His sleeves were rolled up. One hand was flat on the table, pressing down on a photograph like he was holding something in place. His face, that managed, controlled face, was different in here. Not open. But unguarded in the way faces get when they believe no one is watching. He looked like a man carrying a very old, very heavy thing. The second man said something sharp. Jiwoo's jaw tightened. He responded without raising his voice, 3 words, quiet, and whatever they were they made the second man step back slightly. The third man noticed the door. Noticed me. I was already stepping back. Already pulling the door shut. Already telling myself I had seen nothing, nothing at all, just some late-night meeting, totally normal, absolutely fine. The door opened fully. The third man looked at me. Then looked back into the room. I heard Jiwoo's voice, 1 word in Korean. Then silence. Then footsteps. He appeared in the doorway. Jacket still off. Eyes on me immediately, like I had announced myself somehow. We looked at each other. Ms. Mensah. His voice was even. I thought you'd gone home. I was just leaving, I said. My voice was even too. I was proud of that. I saw the light. I didn't realize anyone was still. What did you see? The question was quiet. That was the part that registered somewhere beneath my professional composure. Not angry. Not threatening. Just quiet. The way a door closing quietly is more final than one that slams. A meeting, I said. I saw a meeting. He looked at me for a long moment. Looked at my bag. Looked at my blazer, specifically, I noticed, at my chest. At the exact spot where the USB pressed against my ribs. I did not move my hand there. I kept both hands loose at my sides. A meeting, he repeated. Yes. I held the look. Gave him nothing. Good night, Mr. Kang. I walked to the elevator. Pressed the button. Did not look back. The elevator came. I stepped in. The doors closed. I stood very still and watched the numbers descend and breathed very carefully through my nose and told myself 3 things. 1. He didn't know what I had found. Not yet. 2. He suspected I had found something. That look at my blazer was not accidental. 3. I needed to get everything I had off this server and onto an external source before morning. I took a cab back to my apartment. It was a corporate flat, minimal, clean, everything functional and nothing personal. I had put a photograph of my mother on the kitchen counter on my first day. It was the first thing I saw every morning. I looked at it now. Ma, I said to the photograph. I think I made a mistake. My mother's face in the photograph, caught mid-laugh at a birthday party 3 years ago, gold earrings, bright dress, said nothing back. But I knew what she would say. You didn't make a mistake, Zara. You found the truth. Those are different things. The mistake is deciding the truth is too heavy to carry. I sat at my kitchen table and I opened my laptop and I started booking a flight. Not running. Regrouping. I would go home for the weekend, get everything to my firm's secure server in Chicago, brief my managing director, and come back with a legal team on standby. Clean. Professional. Protected. The flight was at 6 a.m. I had 7 hours. I packed a bag, showered, set 2 alarms, and lay down on the bed fully dressed. I didn't sleep. At 4:30 a.m. I gave up on sleeping and called my mother. She picked up on the second ring because she always picked up on the second ring no matter what time it was, because Zara Mensah operated on a frequency where her children's distress reached her before the phone even rang. Zara. Just my name. She already knew. Hey, Ma. My voice came out steadier than I felt. How are you feeling? How am I? A small sound. Half laugh, half exhale. It is 4:30 in the morning in Seoul and you are asking me how I am feeling. You're right, you're right. What happened? I looked at the ceiling. I found something at work. Something bad. Something big. I paused. I don't know yet if they're different things. Silence on the line. The particular silence of a woman who had spent 20 years reading between her daughter's lines. Are you safe? Yes, I said. Yes, I'm fine. I'm coming home for the weekend. I needed to hear your voice. Another silence. Then, Zara. Do you remember what I told you when you were 7 and you found your teacher had been changing your test scores? I almost smiled. You told me to write everything down. And keep a copy somewhere nobody could reach. And walk into that office like I already won. Good girl, she said softly. Come home. I'll make kontomaya. You don't have to. I will make kontomaya and I will make the rice the way you like it and we will sit at the table and you will tell me everything and then you will go back and finish what you started. You are my daughter. You do not leave things unfinished. I pressed my hand to my eyes. Okay, Ma. Okay. I love you. I love you too. I hung up. Sat up. Checked my alarms. 4:47 a.m. I picked up my bag. Looked at my mother's photograph. Put it in the bag. At 5:15 a.m. I walked out of the apartment building into the cool Seoul morning and flagged down a cab. The airport was 40 minutes away. I didn't make it. Drop a comment below, are you Team Zara or did Jiwoo already get you? Like this video if you felt that phone call. We're just getting started. The cab had been moving for 12 minutes when it stopped. Not at a light. Not in traffic. Just stopped. In the middle of a road I didn't recognize, in a part of the city I hadn't been to, with buildings on both sides that were dark and a street that was empty in the specific way that streets are empty when they've been made empty. I looked at the driver. Why are we stopping? He didn't answer. He didn't turn around. Excuse me. My voice sharpened. Why have we stopped? The driver got out of the car. I grabbed my bag and reached for the door handle. It didn't open. Child locks engaged from the front. Okay, Zara. Think. I wasn't afraid yet. This is the thing about fear, it doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes your brain enters a state of very rapid, very clear problem solving that looks like calm and is actually just survival wearing calm's clothes. I checked my phone. Signal. Good. I opened the door with my elbow through the window, reached out, found the exterior handle, pulled. Cold air. I swung the bag over my shoulder and stepped out, and the driver was standing 5 feet away, hands at his sides, not looking at me, looking at something past me. I turned. 2 black cars. Parked perpendicular across the road ahead. Engines off. No plates. 3 men standing in front of them. Suits. Still. And between the cars and me, walking toward me at the same unhurried, even pace I had heard on the 43rd floor that afternoon. Kang Jiwoo. He was in a different suit now. Dark coat. He looked like he had not slept, or perhaps like sleep was something that happened to other people. His hands were in his pockets. He stopped 2 meters from me. I did not step back. I want to be clear about that. I did not step back. Mr. Kang. My voice. Even. Clear. Remarkable, honestly. This is irregular, he said. I know. I apologize for that. Apologize. I looked at the cars. The men. The driver who was now standing very far away. You apologize. Yes. He didn't look embarrassed. He looked like a man who was doing the math on a very complex equation and had only one acceptable answer. I need you to come with me. I have a flight. I know about the flight. He paused. I know about the USB drive. I know you've been pulling records from restricted partitions for the last 4 days using access credentials that weren't included in your original audit clearance. The air between us was very still. And I need you, he continued, quietly, to come with me so we can discuss this somewhere that isn't the middle of a street at 5 in the morning. I looked at him. At the total absence of performance in his face. He wasn't trying to scare me. He wasn't posturing. He had stopped my car and walked toward me in the dark with 3 men behind him, and he was speaking to me like this was a business meeting that had inconveniently been scheduled at dawn. That was, somehow, the most frightening thing about it. If I refuse? I asked. Something shifted in his eyes. Not hardness. Something more tired than that. I would prefer that you don't. I thought about running. Genuinely. I calculated it, bag on my shoulder, heels I could slip off in 2 seconds, distance to the nearest lit building, whether I could get a call out before. His eyes told me he had already run the same calculation. Ms. Mensah. A beat. Zara. First time. My actual name, in his mouth, in the cold morning air of a city that was still mostly asleep. I'm not going to hurt you. But I need you to understand what you've found before you take it somewhere you can't take it back from. I stared at him. You're asking me to trust you, I said. In the middle of a road. At 5 in the morning. After you just had my cab intercepted. I'm asking you to be practical, he said. Which I suspect you are. Deeply. Silence. My mother's voice in my head, pattern recognition, not paranoia. The pattern here was clear. The pattern here had been clear since the moment I pulled that second USB drive. I had found something that did not want to be found, and the person it belonged to was standing in front of me, and he had not sent someone else. He had come himself, in the dark, alone enough to feel like a choice rather than a threat. I didn't know what that meant yet. But I knew that people who meant to disappear you quietly did not stand 2 meters away and say I would prefer that you don't. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I shifted my bag on my shoulder and said, if you touch my USB drives, I will make the rest of your audit the most expensive 3 months of your professional life. He held my gaze. Understood. And I want coffee. A pause. I'll arrange it. Real coffee. Not whatever the machine on the 43rd floor dispenses. Something happened at the very corner of his mouth. Not a smile. The shadow of one, maybe. Brief. Gone. Real coffee, he said. I walked toward the car. Not because I wasn't afraid. Not because I trusted him. Because I was Amma Mensah's daughter, and Amma Mensah's daughters do not leave things unfinished. And because somewhere, beneath the fear and the math and the survival instinct running hot through my blood, I understood one thing clearly. Whatever I had found in those books, whatever $400 million and 37 shell companies and 6 years of invisible fingerprints added up to, he needed me. And need, in my experience, was the only real leverage in the world. I got in the car. The door closed. Kang Jiwoo got in beside me. Said nothing. Looked straight ahead. The city moved past us in the dark. And somewhere in that silence, between his stillness and my racing pulse, I felt it, the exact moment a story stops being something that happened to you and becomes something you are inside. I was inside it now. I pressed my hand flat against the USB drive through my blazer. Still there. Still mine. Whatever comes next, those books, those numbers, this man sitting beside me like a question I hadn't agreed to answer, I had the receipts. And in my world, the receipts always won. That's episode 1. If you are already obsessed, subscribe, share this with somebody, and comment below. What do you think is really in those books? What do you think Jiwoo actually wants? Episode 2 drops soon, and I promise you, it gets so much deeper. See you there. Blackheart Fire.